Hey guys, this is Mars. Welcome to the Blue Surrealist and welcome to Mars Talks. So today, Mars talks about acrylic painters must-haves. So what should an acrylic painter have when you're starting to paint? When you want to have a good quality painting, what should you do? What should you have in your inventories? So let's start. So first off, you have to have an eraser and a pencil for sketching your projects on paper or canvas. So like the previous week, if you've watched more stocks last week, this was the sketch that I made for my client, and I drew it on paper so that she can see the reference that I'm going to be using when I paint her commission painting. So that's one of it. Always keep your sketches with you because that's proof that you yourself made your sketch. No one made it for you. And always make sure that you have your signature on your sketch because sometimes sketches are also taken by other people on the net, on the internet. So that's a precaution for you. You should also have a ruler. So I use a ruler because I want all my proportions correct, or sometimes my perspectives. If I want my perspective coming from this height, so I should have all my lines straight at this point, all my perspective at this level also, so that what you think is also what the viewers can see in your paintings. So another one should be cloth or tissue paper. You can let your paints dry here, and if there's excess paints sometimes that builds up here in your brushes, you can just scrape it off with tissue paper or your cloth. So this one's really necessary. I like using tissue papers, like I've said in another video. It's very easy to dispose and you can just have one and throw one away as soon as it's very damp, it's very dirty. Unlike using cloths, you still have to wash it off, and sometimes the paints actually leave a stain in cloths. So that's why I use tissue paper. So the next one is to have a big water container like this, so that you can store a lot of water inside, because when you dilute your paints from your paintbrush, it will color the water so much that sometimes it's gonna be picked up by your brush. So don't use the small containers. Find one that's big enough like this so that you can store a lot of water. So the next one is this water bottle. So I actually have this beside me so that I have an extra clean water, because when I throw out the bad water that's been colored by paints, I have this one to refill my big container. But it's not a drinking water, this is just tap water. So another must-have for acrylic painters is this paint holder right here, because you can store little bit amounts of water here and some paints here for detailing, and you can wash off your paints here. And sometimes I would get water from my big container and just put some here so that I can just wash my paintbrushes mostly from detailing. Other than the paint holder that I showed earlier, another must-have is this palette holder. So you can put your colors here. I personally mix my paints here and then transfer it with a palette knife on this end and sometimes on this, and so that all my paints are organized and I can use my paints at once when I have them here, because as we know, acrylic paints are easy to dry. So it's good to have this palette holder. So other artists that don't have this palette holder, they also use glass or paper plates to hold their paints. I really like this plastic palette holder because it's very light to use. I can scrape my dried paintings after I paint, and others actually use the palette holders that are wood, and I think it's also good. So I hope you can find one because I was also just lucky to have found this palette holder when I did. I think I bought this at the oil paint store in Cubao. I think it's just for 100 or 200 pesos roughly. So it's really gonna save you a lot of time and effort, and you're sure that you can take your paint everywhere because your paints are right here. So the next one in our list is to have a canvas. So this one that I have right here is actually a 9x12 stretch canvas. So I really like using stretched canvases because of the feel. I've been using stretched canvases ever since, but other artists also use a canvas panel. So I'll be doing another video about that. So stay tuned for that. You can also actually buy canvas pads where it's just like a sketchbook, but inside is the canvas cloths like this one. So another must-have is to use an acrylic gesso. So I use this acrylic gesso to make my surfaces better. Your canvases should be primed before you start painting so that you have a nice surface to work on, and this will definitely help your paintings to be better. Okay? So the next one in our must-haves is paint brushes. So there's a variety of brushes that you can use in painting your paintings. And for a beginner, I think you should have a flat brush. So this one is a number 8 flat brush from Montmart. So this is really good for small detailing. So this paintbrush is good for covering small areas that are a little wide. So that's a good use for flat brushes. So another one is using this big flat brush right here. So I use this when I put my gesso or when I use it for varnishing or putting my isolation coats, because this one can easily cover a big ground when you paint like this. So it's gonna cover more ground. So the bigger your canvas is, the bigger your brush should be. Okay? So other than the flat brushes that we have, it's also good to have a detailing brush like this small pointed brush. So this brush is actually a Marie's 00 brush. So I use this for detailing the eyes, the irises, the fingernails, the hands, the shadows also. It's very good for detailing. So I think you can have just one of these for a start for beginners, and one big flat brush for you. So one of my favorite brushes is also fan brush. So this can be used in doing trees or landscapes and waterfall effects. It's very, very beautiful to use. It's very fun for a beginner to use this, so I suggest that you do experiment in using fan brushes. So I hope you can use one of these brushes right here, because it's a really great way to experiment when you're starting your paintings. There's actually a lot where you can buy from: the oil paint store, Lazada, and Shopee. Since there's a pandemic right now, you can order those online, and I hope you can get a good set of brushes for you. So our next must-have is a palette knife. So this one is actually good for mixing your paints and actually painting directly on canvas. So I actually discourage mixing directly from your brush if you're mixing large amount of paints. So the paint is actually going to accumulate at the end of your paintbrush right here, and that's actually a big waste of paints for you. So I do highly recommend using just a palette knife to mix your paints so that you can minimize damaging your paint brushes, because you should always take care of your paint brushes so that it can last a lifetime. This is a must-have 100%, because you're not an acrylic painter if you don't have this on your list. You should have acrylic paints. You should have at least 5 colors when you're starting to paint. That's blue, red, yellow, white, and black. Because all the colors that you can use in doing your paintings, you can get in those 3 primary colors already. So if you're frugal like me, you can just buy those 5 colors and you can make whatever you want, basically. So that's a must-have for you. If you're a little ahead already and you have not discovered this yet, I highly recommend using an acrylic medium. This is acrylic medium matte. In order to thin out your paints without breaking those bonds, you should use this acrylic medium matte. So this can thin out your paints, do glazes, and also good for softening the shadows. You should not thin out your paints with water, and it leaves that oil painting impression in your paints because of using this matte medium. I'll be doing another video of that, so stay tuned for another more stuff. This is also a good find for me, and I hope you also use this in your paints and not merely just water. So I use an acrylic retarder. I know you've been seeing this in my videos lately. This one actually helped me in making my paints last longer. So I'm not promoting Golden. I just really use this brand. I just really use this retarder because I'm very used to using this already. And it also has instructions at the back. And you're also gonna be using this for a long time because a small drop of this is actually going to help a big amount of paint that you already have. Like I said in my other videos, other artists actually use water to wet their canvas first before painting so that their paints would last longer, but I do prefer using just retarder so that I don't break the bonds of my paints. Okay, so the next one in my list is this soft gel gloss from Golden also. Again, I'm not promoting this brand, I just really use this soft gel gloss from Golden. Some artists actually don't varnish their paintings anymore, but I do. So I use this soft gel gloss for doing my isolation coats after my paints cure, for an isolation coat before I put my varnish in. Because it's important that your varnish does not directly adhere to your painting. Okay? Because varnishes darken over time, and in order to varnish it again, it has to be removed. So if your paintings are adhered directly into varnishes and the varnish is going to be removed, your painting is gonna be damaged. Okay, so just use an isolation coat for your paintings before varnishing. So instructions are also indicated at the back. I'll also be doing another tutorial on how I put my isolation coats on my paintings. So watch out for that. So another one to use is a small container for your isolation coatings and your varnishes. It's good to have this size because a little goes a long way. You don't have to have a big container for this. This small container is already sufficient for your isolation coats and your varnishes. So the last one in our list is a varnish. So this one that I have right here is actually a satin varnish. I mostly use gloss varnishes in my paintings because it has this really glow effect that I like. But I also have this satin varnish that's between matte and gloss varnish. It's a little bit dull and gloss varnishes, but it's also a good use. Actually depends on what particular varnish that you like. It's either matte, satin, or gloss varnish. Other artists actually don't varnish their paintings anymore, but I do like to varnish my paintings because it protects them from dust and it protects my paintings from damaging. So I hope you like our acrylic painters must-haves for today. If I missed anything, let me know in the comment section down below. If you like to ask me any questions, also comment your questions down below and let me know if you agree or you disagree in my list. That's also a good discussion for me. So I hope you like this video. I hope this helped you a lot. And I hope you share this with your friends and subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell. And I hope you're safe at home. Stay safe. Wear your mask properly. Practice social distancing, please. Be weird, stay weird. Be yourself every day. And I'll see you soon. Bye.